Hi, my name's Cassie, and tonight I'm going to be showing you how to repurpose soda bottles. We're going to be turning them into flower vases. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that you're going to want to do is get your old pop bottle and peel the labels off of it, okay? So we're just going to peel these labels right off there. They usually come off pretty easily. There we go. And then once we do that, we're going to want to get all of that sticky stuff off of there. So we're going to take just an old rag of some sort and some Goof Off. Apply that to your rag. And then we'll take that right along the sticky parts of the bottle. Now you may have to do this a few times, apply it and rub over top of it. It usually won't come off in the first one. So you'll do that just as many times as needed. Sometimes too, if it's being extra difficult, you can let it dry in between and then come back at it, and sometimes that helps it come off easier. I have already done this to a bottle over here, so we'll go ahead and move on off of that step. But this is what it'll look like when it's all done. It'll be nice and clean and not sticky anymore, okay? So then we're going to paint the interior of our bottle. So I've got this little funnel here that I found in my kitchen. I'm sure you could pick this up anywhere. And then you're gonna have your paint. I have mentioned this in other videos before, but I strongly recommend going to Home Depot or a department store and looking for mist tints because you can get them so cheap. This one was only 50 cents and a lot cheaper for a little project like this than going out and buying an expensive paint. And usually you'd be surprised, you can find some really good colors. So once you have this part ready, you're going to take your paint and you're just going to dump it right into your funnel there. And you want to actually use quite a bit of paint because it makes it easier to cover the interior of it. And you don't have to worry about how much you use if you have a lot inside there because we're going to be dumping the excess back anyway, so that really won't make a difference. Good to have a spare paintbrush lying around so you can clean up the edges of your container there once you've dumped that in there. Alright, so you want to let that funnel get drained out in there, and you can see I filled it about 1 inch is what I recommend there. And we'll set our funnel off to the side here on some paper. Okay, so once you have the paint in, you're just going to turn the bottle on its side, let it pour up to the top, and then just start to roll it. And this is how you coat the inside of the bottle, okay? So you're just going to roll it around there. And then once you get the base, then you can kind of scoot up and get the neck of the bottle. It is important that your paint is fresh enough. You know, as paint starts to get a little bit older, it gets thicker and it won't roll as good. So you do want your paint to be pretty fresh, and then you'll just work that all the way around. Once you have this part done, and I have one that I'm going to move to here in a second, you will want to dump out all of your excess paint. And this part is pretty important. You'll need to be patient, which I've mentioned before that I lack patience, so I learned most of this stuff the hard way. You want to be patient, you want to get all of that excess paint that you can out because it takes such an extremely long time to dry. I definitely recommend at least a 24-hour dry time. You may want to let it dry 48 hours though, just to get all of that paint completely dry in there. If you don't let it dry thoroughly though, and you go to stick something down inside there and you scratch it, it's no big deal. I mean, you just repeat that step over and you'll be fine. So we're going to move on to this bottle that I've already gotten done here. And really the last step, the last thing that we're going to do is just dress it up a little bit. I'm going to take some lace to wrap around it. The reason I'm using lace is because I happen to have a rose bush in my yard that I like to cut and put the flowers in my house, and I just think that lace looks pretty with roses. So you're going to take a little dab of hot glue and put that on your jar and just push your lace down over top of that. I think hot glue is the easiest thing to use here. There are adhesives that are going to hold up better and stick better, but it takes a lot longer. You're going to have to let it dry. You're going to have to make sure that the lace stays on there, which is why I like to use the hot glue for this part. But I will caution you that with hot glue and glass, it doesn't always stick really well, so you may have to touch this up at some point, but that's really no big deal. It'll just take a second to fix it if it ever comes loose. So I'm going to cut my lace, put another little spot of glue down here, and finish wrapping this around. Doesn't really matter if it's not perfectly even because you can just go through and kind of straighten it up. Okay, so then I have this little part in the front that's kind of ugly here where I've covered over. So that's where you're going to want to get an embellishment of some sort and put on there. I am using a little, it's called spare parts. You can get these at Hobby Lobby. They're like buttons or little embellishments. I'm going to use one of those, but I really recommend looking for stuff around your house. I think that it's a lot of fun to find things that, you know, you're going to throw away or that you don't really need anymore. For example, on this one, I used an earring that I had lost one earring, and I had the other one that I hadn't gotten rid of, so I used that on there. You could also use like old keys. If you had an old key that you don't know what it went to, you could spray paint it or even leave it its natural color and glue it on there. Or even like the bottle cap, you know, get creative. You could spray paint the bottle cap and turn it around the other way and stick it on there. So lots of options there. I'm going to go ahead and use this little piece and just put some hot glue on the back there. And if you ever want to keep your glue from being stringy, if you just tap it down, the glue gun down on there, that'll keep it from doing that. So we'll put that right over the spot where our lace came together to cover that up. And that is actually it. It's already done. So when it is all the way done and you've added your flowers, it'll look like this. I did this one in a different color than the blue. I think that it looks really nice to do these kind of colors, and then you have like a bright pink flower that contrasts. So just recommend these for, think about what flowers you have in your yard that you can cut and put in a bottle and what color will look really nice as a contrast. And that's it. Thanks so much for